Okay, now this first section is 8.3. Now 8.3 is just one topic, and it is called foiling. You learned it in middle school, okay? And I'm going to show you a couple different ways to do it. See if it helps you, okay? I'm just going to move this way so you're looking at just this problem. So foiling, remember, is when you have two binomials right next to each other because it's going to be multiplying. So if you don't remember, foiling means first, outside, inside, and last. So write that down over there. It's on top of each other. So first means the first term times the first term. And you draw like a little line that says first times first. So 2x times x is 2x squared. Then outside, same spot, so that means outside of the whole thing. So 2x times 5. So both lines are coming from the same spot. So 2x times 5, and the positives do matter, and that's 10x. And the last two terms come from a new number. So inside means the inside two numbers. So 3 times x, so plus 3x. And last is 3 times 5, which is 15. If you always do it in this order, the middle two numbers will always add together. So 10x's plus 3x's is 13x's. All this other stuff will bring down in that order, and it will be in standard form. That is the basics of foiling, okay? Now, your other classmates said they had a struggle with this last year. So if this is hard for you, there's another way to think of this. If you just want to think about it as distributing, I'm going to show you in this problem, okay? Now, you can just say, this guy needs to be multiplied by this. So you say the first term, so x, needs to be multiplied by everything in the second group. So you're going to write 3x plus 4. And then the second term, so negative 2, needs to be multiplied by everything in the second group. Then it looks just like a problem from 8.2. So then from here, you would distribute. So x times 3x is 3x squared. X times 4 is plus 4x. Then same thing over here. Distribute the negative 2, negative 6x. Negative 2 times 4 is negative 8. If you do in this order, you will still get the middle two terms to add together. Everything else will be brought down. So bring down the first term. 4x and negative 6x is negative 2x. And then bring down the last term. No matter which way you do it, looking at both of them, you will still get the correct answer. Now, if it helps you, I know it helped. I think I showed it to everybody, and Lexi really liked it. I'll get a couple colors for you. Hold on. And we'll look at this first problem, even though I gave you the answers right here, so you can look and check and see you did it right. So when you do foil, if you want, you can use one color and go, okay, foil, first and outside. You can draw just those, and then even in that color, if you want, that's what she did on the board, or just do that, and then, okay, let's just write those math out. So 2y times 3y, write it out. 2y times 5, write it out. And then when you go to the next one, you switch colors. That means switching colors reminds you that you have to switch terms, because sometimes that's the thing people have a hard time with, okay? In middle school, Mr. Phillips used to call it the crab claw method, because it looks like a crab claw, if you see the image a little bit. I don't like to call it that. Foil makes sense to me because it has words that mean things. It has an acronym for that. So it's up to you how you would like to do it. Everyone in your class did it a little differently. So here's the problems. Here are the answers. Try them out. See if you're getting the same answers as me, okay? Then 8.4. So 8.4 is basically like 8.3. It's supposed to make your life easier. So you're going to learn two special things. You're going to learn a plus b is all squared, okay? This is a generic form, right? So it's like a formula. So what this really means is that you have a plus b times itself, right? And we just learned that when you have two things like this, right? We're talking about foiling. Now we can do that, but we can learn the formula in our head, and we can skip from here to the formula, which is the first thing squared, because it's squared, and then plus 2 times the first thing and the second thing, and then plus the last thing squared. And it just takes practice, and I'll show you how to do it. I did one of them, and then we'll do some more together. So if you see this, remember, first, it's right there. So first thing squared, so you see I take the first thing, 3x, and I put in parentheses, and I put a squared around it. Then plus, always put a 2 in the middle, and then the first thing, so 3x in parentheses, times the second thing, and then plus again, and then the last thing squared, right there, just like the formula. Then we're going to actually do that. So since it says 3x squared, both of these things are being squared, so you square the 3 and the x, so that's 9x squared. In the middle, all my numbers are positive, so I keep the plus sign. 2 and 3 and 5 are whole numbers, so they all need to be multiplied. So 2 times 3 is 6. 6 times 5 is 30. Got an x, got to keep it. And at the end, 5 squared is 25. And that's your answer. This, in the end, should save you so much time in comparison to foiling. Now, if you can't do it and you can't foil, if you can't do this and you want to foil, you can always do that. You're going to have to remember that you have to be really good and quick at foiling, which means you have to really get in your math facts and all that, and being able to do a lot of this in your head well, not just doing it in your head, but you have to do it well and get it right, because this is meant to make things faster so that you can do more things. So your test would be longer. What it'd be asking you to do is one step out of many things when we move on or when you get to algebra 2. Okay, so let's do another one. So 8c plus 3d squared. So again, the first thing squared, so 8c squared plus 2, and then the first thing, 8c, times the second thing, so that's 3d, and then plus the last thing squared, so 3d squared. So then you square both the things in the first group, so 64c squared, plus multiply your numbers, 2 times 8 times 3. So 2 times 3, I always use small numbers. 2 times 3 is 6. 6 times 8 is 48. Variables, just put them in alphabetical order, C, then D. Then plus 3 squared is 9, and then D squared. Done. Answer. When you get really good at this, like I can go from here straight to this answer because I can do it in my head. And when you get more practice, you'll be able to. This one, 3x plus 4y, all of it squared. See. So 3x all squared plus 2 times 3x times 4y plus 4y all squared. Do the math. You get 9x squared plus 24xy and 16y squared. Now we're going to do the same thing down here at the bottom. The only difference is we had a plus b squared. Now we're going to do a minus b squared. The only difference is that minus. And the only thing that's going to change is your final answer is going to have a minus in the middle. That's because, look, this negative, like that 5 is negative. So when we plug it in the middle, it makes it negative. That's why. Because when we plug that negative 5, when we square it, a negative squared becomes a positive. So that's why the only thing that becomes negative is the middle, because the front and the back are squareds. The middle is the only thing that stays negative. So you can think of these just as the same formula as the positives. Plug it in as 2 times a times plus 2 times a times b. Just make sure you take the negative with the 5. It'll all come out the same. So I'm gonna move this binder clip so you can see. Okay, so then look at this one. Okay, let's look. Okay, well, let me make sure you can see this. Okay, so look, 2x squared plus 2 times the first term times, oh, I forgot the y, times negative 5y. Man, I forgot it both times. So then you see how the negatives with the 5 and the y, even though I messed it up, right? And then plus negative, I didn't write the negative because when I square it, it becomes positive. I know that. It's okay. And you can choose to do that. I think Tristan did it yesterday. Okay? So then we do that. This squared becomes that. Negative 5 times 2 is a negative, which is where we're getting that negative in that formula. And then xy. Then plus 5 squared is 25, and then y squared. So let's try this one. first term, 6p all squared, plus 2 times 6p times -1 plus -1 squared. Now remember, if you're going to plug this in your calculator, whatever the number is, now -1, you shouldn't have to. You should know it. But if you need to plug them in your calculator, just don't forget to put them in parentheses, okay? So then 6p squared, 36p squared, 6 times 2 times -1, so that's -12p, and then plus, because that's going to make positive, and then just 1, because 1 squared is still 1, right? Now try the last one. I'm going to write the answer. So I got a squared minus 4ab plus 4b squared. Remember, because a squared and then 2 times a times b, so a negative happens, and then b squared. Okay? Homework is online.